Hi, everyone. Thanks for watching this video abstract. I'm Yafa,
Hi, Mary.
and we're going to talk to you today about our paper, Disambiguating the Southern Urban Critique. And we're going to start off by telling you a little bit about what led us to this paper in the first place.
So both Yafa and I have our primary field of interest is urban political ecology, and we were working in very different contexts, but it turned out wrestling with a number of the same questions. So we had met at a conference long ago, and sort of through a set of conversations came to realize that we were both struggling to think about how did we do this urban political ecology thing in Southern contexts.
So I was coming more from an India perspective, having my research predominantly in Indian cities on the urban political ecology of water. And Mary was coming from?
Most of my work is in South Africa, studying waste and sanitation.
So together, we basically were thinking through our projects and trying to come up with why different strands of urban political ecology, more of the Marxian strands, didn't fit quite as well as they could have to kind of explain what we were seeing on the ground and how we could bring in diverse Southern perspectives. And as we got into a literature on Southern urbanism, we realized this is quite a complex set of critiques that are coming from the South. And we really wanted to start having a set of discussions about, which strands are we using? And is there a way we can kind of tease them apart to understand more?
So we decided to write this paper.
So it led from a set of conversations. And the first thing that we worked on is sort of defining what is the Southern urban critique. And there are many, and we're going to talk about those. But the quick and dirty sort of definition of it is that it's basically using the South as a basis by which to examine urban research and to critique existing urban theory. And importantly, what is meant by the South widely varies. It may not be a region, it may be more of a concept analytic. It may point to different intellectual traditions and different ways of situating knowledge. So we were being very mindful of that in this paper. So basically, there are three different strands of the Southern urban critique that we focus on in the paper. And we also have a null strand, which we have a 0 here. And so I'm going to quickly walk through what those are. And of course, we hope you read the paper to find out much more. We're giving a very simplified version here. So the first strand that sometimes is mistakenly used, and we found to be null, is an argument against theory altogether. This would be thinking through the South and saying we shouldn't be using urban theory at all. We should be basically doing heavy data collection and just focusing on empirical difference and kind of critiquing the use of theory. And we don't find that to be true in studies of the South. So I'll move on to the three strands that we did find. The first is that the South is empirically different. And this doesn't necessarily mean that it's an endpoint of theory, but it's basically acknowledging that empirical difference does matter. And this can include the particulars of histories, the particulars of governance on the ground. And it's also a way to say that some studies think that Southern difference and kind of concentrating on that as a means to displace certain concepts and analyses that stem from Euro-America. So it might be critiques that maybe neoliberalism, for example, doesn't apply or needs to be situated. That would be one way of working through the empirical difference. The second is that we need to focus on the different intellectual traditions, and a Southern perspective contributes to being able to do that. So this basically foregrounds that colonial and racist ideologies have underpinned most of the production of scholarly knowledge, and it's basically pointing to the necessity to look at intellectual traditions and differing forms of knowledge from elsewhere outside the North. The third and final proposition that we highlight in the paper of the Southern urban critique is that researchers need to deconstruct their assumptions with regard to Southern cities. In other words, you can't simply research Southern cities and have good intentions and that's simply enough, that actually the colonial legacy and the colonial gaze is very real and very present, and that we have to actually start to decolonize our work in very proactive ways. And basically this is informed by decolonial theory.
So as we were teasing out these different strands, we were also trying to wrestle with, well, what are the implications of this for how we do research, and also how we think of ourselves as a wider field, how we teach, how we do our conferencing, how we communicate. So we came up with 3 different versions of this as well. In some ways, these have parallels with the previous slide, but it's not a clear one-to-one here. So just putting that aside. So Southern urbanism as a distinct phenomenon, and we think of this as a version where you're teaching separate classes, you have separate journals, where you're treating the South as a thing separate from the North. We also see regional version of this, where there's African cities or Asian cities. And I think there's a real question as to whether or not this is a strategic choice in the moment to highlight the Southern, or whether this is envisioned as a genuine difference that creates 2 separate pockets in the long term. The second one is that all theory is located. And so instead of treating Southern urban as a separate thing, that the critique produces 2 different bodies of scholarship, the argument here is one that has relevance in the theories that we do from New York about New York, from the global North about the global North, that all of those theories also carry these colonial modern ideas and need to be critically reflected on learning, as we call it. And the last one is the idea that we do need to go through this process of unlearning, of critiquing the canon. But if we do that well, eventually we can still come up with this general, unified, singular body of urban theory that speaks globally. So we wrote this paper trying to outline these different ideas, and much of our struggle was about which one we thought about, which one we believed in, which one we would advocate for, which one we would try to practice. And so as we were writing, we ended up running out of space in 8,000 words to really wrestle with that. But also it's for us an ongoing question. And we are really interested in engaging with other people and advancing our own thinking. We're continuing to work on these ideas in our empirics around urban political ecology and how we think about and how we re-theorize urban political ecologies, not just in the South, but also what relevance that might have beyond the South. So we hope that this brief video abstract, if you haven't read the paper yet or have some questions about it, that this video helps you to either understand it or motivate you to go and read it. And if that's not enough for you, we have a book-length version which really tries to tease and stretch and give examples of some of this. But you're also welcome to reach out to us. Our contact details are here. And thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.